The call no parent wants to get.
Stating there was a code red lockdown, there was gunshots nearby.
A student shot 3 times at Seminole High School.
What happens when evil teens are confronted with their shocking sentences? In this video, witness their haunting reactions, ranging from frozen silence to fiery outbursts. These are some of the most jaw-dropping courtroom moments you won't believe.
Wade's legs will be chained up during his upcoming trial. His attorney was concerned about the image that would have on the jury, so curtains have been put up in front of his seat. This area here.
Max Wade first gained attention when he made headlines for stealing a Lamborghini that belonged to none other than celebrity chef Guy Fieri. This audacious act earned him 15 minutes of fame and landed him in hot water with the law. However, Max's legal troubles did not end there. In 2013, he was found guilty of 6 charges, including attempted murder. Despite being just a teenager at the time of the crimes, he was tried as an adult. In April 2012, Max committed a drive-by shooting in Mill Valley. His target was 19-year-old Landon Wallstrom, who was in a car with 18-year-old Eva Dedier. Max was initially charged with attempted murder in Eva's case, but the charge was dropped. Max's actions were deemed so severe that he was ultimately sentenced to life in prison, plus 21 years and 4 months. Judge Kelly Simmons, who delivered the harsh verdict, stated that Max planned the attack perfectly, and that's kind of scary. However, the sentence was met with controversy as Max's attorney argued that it violated the 8th Amendment, which protects individuals from cruel and unusual punishment. Max's defense attorney argued that considering his immaturity and troubled childhood, a life sentence would be disproportionate and unfair. They argued that Max's young age and troubled upbringing should have been taken into account by the judge, considering Max's lack of criminal experience and background. The prosecution sought to counter these claims by highlighting Max's dangerous nature and intentions. They argued that Max had planned to carry out a violent burglary at a high-end San Francisco jewelry store, valued at over $6 million. This planned heist involved the use of a bomb, fake police uniforms, and a chopper. Despite reviewing the evidence, Judge Simmons denied the prosecution's request to introduce this evidence, stating that the plans were unrelated to Max's current case. This decision caused an uproar among some who believed Max's intentions should have been considered in sentencing. While some argued that he deserves a life sentence for his crimes, others believe that his age and troubled background should have been taken into account. One of the detectives who worked on the case and had helped identify Max as a suspect expressed his satisfaction with the guilty verdict. He was quoted as saying, "I wouldn't want my mother or girlfriend to be on the same streets as Max Wade." In a shocking turn of events, in 2021, Max's sentence was significantly reduced by 10 years, which increased his parole eligibility by 7 years. During Max's parole hearing, he shocked everyone with his remarkable transformation. He claimed that he had changed significantly while in prison, stating that the death of a close friend had had a profound impact on him. Max elaborated on how this experience had opened his eyes and made him realize the error of his ways. Max went on to tell the parole board that he had earned his GED and was now studying computer science. He expressed a desire to work in cybersecurity. The state parole board, impressed by Max's good behavior and assessed him as a low to moderate risk, decided to grant him parole. This decision was met with objections from the Marin District Attorney's Office, which argued that Max was merely a wolf in sheep's clothing. Despite their concerns, the parole board stood by their decision, citing Max's impressive progress and willingness to change. The parole decision, made on July 20th, will be reviewed by the board's legal division and California Governor Gavin Newsom. This process can take upwards of 3 months as both parties carefully examine the details of the case and weigh the potential consequences. It is crucial to note that the governor, who holds the ultimate authority in such cases, makes the final determination of Max's parolees. From Max Wade's high-speed chase with the law, we move on to a far darker and more disturbing story: the case of Robert and Michael Beaver. These teenage brothers took sibling rivalry to a horrifying level, committing unthinkable acts against their own family.
Broken Arrow, Oklahoma has 1, maybe 2 murders a year, but tonight this community is reeling from 5, the worst crime anyone here can remember.
In 2015, the quiet town of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma was rocked by a shocking crime involving the Beaver family. Daniel and April Beaver were a seemingly ordinary couple, raising their 5 children in a modest home. But beneath this facade, a darker truth lurked. The Beavers were a close-knit unit, with Robert, Michael, Crystal, Daniel, Christopher, Victoria, and Autumn making up their brood. Those who knew the family described them as quiet and withdrawn, preferring to keep to themselves. The children, homeschooled by their parents, were rarely seen interacting with other children in the neighborhood. Despite their seemingly innocent exterior, rumors about the Beaver brothers, Robert and Michael, began to circulate. There was something unsettling about them, but no one could put their finger on it.
Police don't yet have a motive, one calling this the worst single criminal event in this town's history.
On July 21, 2015, Robert and Michael Beaver collected body armor and knives, hatching a plan to carry out a horrific act of violence. These two brothers were plotting to murder their family the very next day. Around 11:30 p.m., Robert and Michael enacted their deadly plan, starting with a horrifying act of violence. They slit their 13-year-old sister Crystal's throat, leaving her fighting for her life. Crystal fought against her brothers, escaping the bedroom and running for the front door. But her siblings were not about to let her escape. They dragged her back inside the house and unleashed an even more brutal assault on her. The extent of Crystal's injuries were horrifying, with her internal organs almost spilling out. Incredibly, she survived this brutal assault, but the rest of the family was not so lucky. Robert and Michael went on a rampage, brutally murdering their parents and siblings. Robert, in a fit of rage, fatally stabbed his mother, April, a staggering 48 times. While Christopher and Victoria Beaver were hiding in the bathroom during the assault, using a clever ruse, Michael pretended to be scared and a victim, knocking on the door and pleading for help. Christopher decided to open the door and allow Michael inside, thinking it was a matter of safety. Instead of seeking safety, Michael turned on his unsuspecting siblings, fatally stabbing each of them over 20 times. With his bloodlust seemingly sated, Michael turned to his father's home office, where his younger brother Daniel was hiding. Once again, he employed the same ruse, pretending to be a victim chased by Robert. Daniel opened the door, allowing Michael to enter. As Michael stepped into his father's office, he turned towards Robert, their other brother, and uttered chilling words. "He's all yours." In a moment of pure madness, Robert turned his knife on his younger brother Daniel and stabbed him in the stomach, chest, head, and back. Daniel Beaver woke up and found himself face to face with his son, Robert. In a matter of seconds, he lunged at his father's throat and stabbed his father repeatedly, 28 times, leaving him lifeless. After committing these heinous crimes, Robert and his brother Michael fled the scene, fleeing out the back door and into the woods that surrounded the house. They knew that the authorities would soon be on their trail, and they had no intentions of getting caught. Daniel Beaver, as he died, called 911. As police officers walked towards the front door, they noticed a pool of blood on the porch. With their hearts pounding, they knocked repeatedly on the door, calling out for any survivors. After an eternity, the officers heard a faint voice calling for help. Breaking down the door, they entered to find 13-year-old Crystal lying in a puddle of her blood. She was rushed to the nearest hospital, where doctors worked frantically to save her life. When Crystal was stable, she identified her brothers as the assailants. In addition to Crystal, only 2-year-old Autumn managed to escape the relentless violence, miraculously escaping with her life. But the rest of the family was gone, their lives ripped away in the most horrific way imaginable. Robert and Michael were arrested at 12:18 a.m. Officers apprehended the brothers using a canine unit after they were discovered hiding in a bush. They had each been charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of assault and battery with intent to kill. Michael, at 16, was tried as an adult, a decision that sparked controversy among legal professionals. His attorney argued that charging him as an adult was unconstitutional, stating that if convicted, he would be doomed to die in prison. Such an outcome, the attorney claimed, was effectively the same as a death sentence. The attorney contended that there was abuse in the Beaver household. However, no concrete evidence was provided to show that there was abuse within the Beaver household. Initially, Robert and Michael pleaded not guilty, maintaining their innocence in the face of overwhelming odds. While incarcerated, Robert dared to take his own life. However, fate intervened when a guard stumbled upon him in the nick of time. Robert pleaded guilty to all charges and was given 5 life sentences without parole, as well as an additional life term. Michael's trial began in April 2018. After 1 month of deliberation, the jury found him guilty and sentenced him to 5 life sentences with parole. Robert, who should have been safely locked away behind bars, attempted to attack 2 prison officers in the day room in 2019. This incident resulted in him receiving 3 more life terms, bringing his total amount of life sentences to 9. Robert and Michael are serving their sentences at the Joseph Harp Correctional Center and the Lexington Correctional Center, respectively, in Lexington, Oklahoma. After the chilling case of Robert and Michael Beaver, where sibling violence shattered an entire family, we now turn to the story of Kaitlyn Currington.
Her name is Lelia King, and she was 30 years old. Police tell us she was caught in the crossfire of 2 groups shooting at each other.
In July 2022, police in Columbus, Ohio, initiated a large-scale search for 16-year-old Kaitlyn Currington. This search began after police were summoned to a shooting incident on July 16th. Upon their arrival, they discovered the body of Lelia King, a 30-year-old mother who had been tragically shot. Lilia had found herself trapped in the middle of a shootout between two groups in a convenience store parking lot. Unfortunately, she succumbed to her injuries at Mount Carmel East Hospital less than 3 hours later.
And police just sent us these photos of 3 people they think may have played a role in this homicide.
After conducting a thorough investigation, detectives obtained surveillance footage that led them to identify Kaitlyn Currington as a person of interest in the case. After reviewing the footage, they realized that Kaitlyn was directly involved in the tragic incident that resulted in Lilia's death. 1 month after the tragic incident involving Lilia King, the prime suspect in her shooting death was finally apprehended. Kaitlyn Currington was arrested and faced charges for his involvement in the heinous crime. The charges brought against him included reckless homicide, among other offenses. However, Kaitlyn maintained his innocence and pleaded not guilty to all charges. As time passed, the case continued to unfold, and in December of 2023, a shocking turn took place. Kaitlyn, now charged as an adult, pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter in relation to Lilia's death. The Franklin County Court of Common Pleas judge presiding over the case handed down a sentence of 7 to 9 years for Kaitlyn's actions. This punishment was met with mixed reactions from the general public, with some expressing satisfaction, while others called for harsher penalties. From Kaitlyn Currington's tragic outburst of violence, we now move on to the unsettling case of Kiona Mouton. Mouton's story, much like Currington's, highlights the unpredictable and dangerous paths some young people take.
Some breaking news now, an update to a story we brought you right at 4 o'clock. The young woman who lured a Lamar High School student to his death in a gang-related hit has just been sentenced.
Kiona Samiriel Mouton, a 16-year-old student at Lamar High School, was the center of a heinous crime in 2018. Known for her charm and charisma, Kiona had caught the attention of 18-year-old DeLindsay Mack, who had a crush on her. On November 3, 2018, Kiona lured DeLindsay to an abandoned lot, promising him a surprise. Little did he know that this surprise would be a meeting with his fate. Kendrick Johnson, a gang member with a chilling reputation, was waiting in the shadows, ready to strike. In a tragic turn of events, Kendrick Johnson opened fire on DeLindsay, ultimately leading to his death. Davian Thomas, the getaway driver, was present during the crime, but the identity of the second shooter remained a mystery. The Houston Police Department and the prosecution are urging the public to provide any information regarding his identity. The consequences of Kiona's actions were far-reaching, leaving a lasting impact on everyone involved. Kiona, now facing criminal charges, found herself facing the prospect of a life in prison. Her actions not only cost the life of an innocent young man, but also shattered the lives of his family and loved ones. Kendrick Johnson was sentenced to life without parole for his involvement in the heinous crime. Davian Thomas, the getaway driver in the DeLindsay murder case, received an equally harsh sentence. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison. According to court records, DeLindsay's murder was the result of an ongoing war between two Houston area gangs. DeLindsay, a promising athlete, had recently transferred to Lamar High School from Yates High School to escape gang vice. In 2024, Kiona Samiriel, now 22, was sentenced to 23 years in prison for her part in DeLindsay's death. Despite her age at the time of the crime, she was charged as an adult, meaning that she must serve at least half of her sentence before becoming eligible for parole. As Kiona's sentencing hearing got underway, DeLindsay's mother had the chance to address Kiona directly. She unleashed her anger and resentments towards Kiona in a powerful emotional speech. Her voice filled with raw emotion, she expressed her deepest hatred towards the teen, stating, "I hate you. You disgust me." While Kiona attempted to fight back tears, DeLindsay's mother had no qualms about pouring salt on her wounds. She bluntly told Kiona, "Don't you dare cry." The sentiment was clear. This mother felt no sympathy or remorse for the perpetrator of the heinous crime. In the aftermath of the hearing, Assistant District Attorney Sarah Seeley held a press conference to address the sentencing. She emphasized the severity of the case, highlighting its devastating impact on DeLindsay's parents. Miss Seeley stated that DeLindsay's parents had placed their child in the one place they believed he would be safe, school. But Kiona had taken advantage of the situation and orchestrated the murder. Kiona Mouton's shocking crime left a community in disbelief, but the next case reveals an even more harrowing tragedy.
A teenager who was accused of shooting a classmate 3 times was in court this afternoon to face upgraded adult charges. Daravius Smith has been in a juvenile detention center.
In January 2022, a shocking incident occurred at Seminole High School in Florida, leaving the community in disbelief. Sanford police arrested a 16-year-old student named Daravius Smith for allegedly shooting an 18-year-old student inside the school around noon. The charges against Daravius include 1 count of open attempted homicide, 1 count of possession of a firearm on campus, and 1 count of firing a weapon and disturbing the peace while interfering with school functions.
McIntyre is a senior who played cornerback on the Seminole High School football team. His family says he has been planning on playing in college next year and has several offers.
The victim of the shooting, Javon McIntyre, was a cornerback for his high school football team who dreamed of playing the sport in college. However, after the shooting, Javon's hopes were put into question, as he worried his injuries might hinder his chances of pursuing his dreams. Javon underwent surgery on his wrist after being shot 3 times, but fortunately, he survived and was in stable condition.
Deputies say he shot 18-year-old Javon McIntyre 3 times on campus at Seminole High School last month. After Smith told investigators the two had words in the bathroom.
Initially, the detectives investigating the shooting believed the motive behind the incident was linked to a girl. However, as they looked deeper into the case, they discovered that it was actually over a deceased relative. This revelation shocked the community and left many questioning the motive behind the senseless act of violence. According to the chief of police, there was no indication the shooting was gang-related. However, this only adds more mystery to the case. Before the tragic incident, Daravius Smith and Javon McIntyre were friends. However, the two teens had a confrontation 1 week before the shooting, which left everyone scratching their heads. Daravius, while speaking with detectives, claimed that Javon was taunting him between classes. However, he denied any threats or attempts to initiate a fight with Javon. On the day of the shooting, Daravius claimed that he hid in a bathroom to avoid Javon. He alleged that Javon was waiting for him outside the bathroom, ready to engage in a fight. In his statement to the detectives, Daravius claimed he was not scared, but because he was inexperienced in fights, he decided to shoot Javon instead. Shockingly, Daravius admitted to firing multiple shots at Javon before the gun jammed. He claimed that he fled the scene afterward, disposed of the weapon, and hid until he was eventually caught. 1 month after Daravius Smith was charged with attempted murder, his case was transferred from the juvenile justice system to the adult circuit court. Daravius opted not to go to trial, instead entering a no-contest plea to the charges against him. In July 2024, Daravius faced the consequences of his actions as Judge John Galuzzo handed down a 15-year prison sentence to be served concurrently. Additionally, he was ordered to serve 5 years on probation.
I find probable cause for attempted first-degree premeditated murder with a firearm reclassified as a light felony. Your client will be held at no bond as to that count.
While on probation, Daravius was ordered to wear a GPS and is prohibited from possessing firearms. The judge made another important decision, banning Daravius from having contact with his victims, their families, and even Seminole High School property. Recognizing the potential mental health issues at play, the judge ordered Daravius to undergo mental health evaluations. In addition to mental health evaluations, the judge also required Daravius to enroll in anger management courses and life skills programs. Javon McIntyre filed a lawsuit against the Seminole County school system in November 2022. In his lawsuit, he alleged that the school did not do enough to protect him. According to Javon's complaint, several school officials heard Daravius threaten him 1 week before he was shot. The complaint further alleges that as he was running and screaming for help after being shot, one school staff member ran past him in the opposite direction and didn't help. Javon, by 2022, was a student at Tusculum University in Tennessee. Due to the devastating consequences of the shooting, Javon sought justice and demanded compensation. He believed his injuries warranted a fair settlement and is seeking at least $100,000. Our next case takes a shocking turn with Curtis and Kaitlyn Jones, siblings who became the youngest teens ever charged with first-degree murder in the U.S.
Jones was only 13 and her brother Curtis 12 when they shot and killed Nicole Spites in 1999.
Curtis and Kaitlyn Jones were siblings who found themselves at the center of a shocking murder case. Living in Port St. John, Florida, with their father, Curtis Jones Sr., the siblings were part of a tight-knit family. However, things took a turn when Curtis Sr. began a relationship with Nicole Spites, a 29-year-old woman with 2 daughters.
The brother and sister, the youngest at the time to be charged as adults with murder in the country, pled out and were sentenced to 18 years in prison.
For a few months in late 1998 and early 1999, the Jones family, Nicole and her daughters, had lived together. However, on January 6, 1999, a horrific event unfolded that would change their lives forever. As Nicole sat working on a 500-piece puzzle at the dining room table, Kaitlyn approached her, holding her father's 9mm handgun. Without hesitation, Kaitlyn opened fire, shooting Nicole in the torso. In the chaos that followed, Kaitlyn dropped the gun, leaving it within reach of her brother Curtis. Curtis seized the opportunity and opened fire, continuing to shoot Nicole until the gun was empty. This deadly assault left Nicole dead on the kitchen floor. The detectives alleged Curtis and Kaitlyn, 13 and 12 years old, covered up their tracks after shooting Nicole, staged the scene as a robbery, and ran into the woods, where they spent one night before they were found and arrested. At just 12 and 13 years old, Curtis and Kaitlyn became the youngest people charged with first-degree murder in the United States. However, it quickly became evident that these two couldn't fully grasp the gravity of their actions. During the court proceedings, Curtis made a shocking request. He asked his attorney if he could bring his Nintendo to prison.
I can't say how many more times he fired the gun, but I know after maybe the last 2 bullets.
According to the Brevard County Sheriff's agent Todd Goodyear, the motive behind Nicole's murder was that the siblings were jealous of their father's girlfriend. This jealousy turned into deadly consequences, with both Curtis and Kaitlyn pleading guilty to second-degree murder charges. It was believed that justice had been served at the time, but a shocking revelation would soon come to light.
I actually took the fingerprints off the gun and wiped it down, and I told my brother that he got hysterical. He had an emotional breakdown because, once again, this is reality now. This isn't some idea that's in our head anymore. This is reality.
In 2009, Kaitlyn spoke to Florida Today and admitted that there was more to Nicole's shooting than meets the eye. According to Kaitlyn, a family member who had been staying in their home sexually abused her and her brother Curtis. However, Kaitlyn said their claims were not taken seriously when meeting with her father, Curtis Sr., and Nicole. Jessica and Inez, Nicole's daughters, were left to pick up the pieces after. Curtis and Kaitlyn killed their mother. For years after the murder, Jessica and Inez perpetuated the lie that their mother was alive and well in Florida. The girls desperately clung to this fantasy. They continued to deceive their friends, pretending that Nicole was on an extended vacation. Finally, after years of suppressing the truth, Jessica mustered the courage to share it with her closest friends. The weight of that lie had become too heavy to bear, and she knew she had to seek help. In a moment of bravery, she revealed that her mother, Nicole, had been brutally murdered by a 12 and 13-year-old. As time went on, Jessica and Inez couldn't help but miss their mother at some of the most pivotal moments of their lives. Curtis Jones, now a youth minister, was released in July 2015, while his sister, Kaitlyn Jones, followed in November of the same year. While adjusting to life outside of prison, Kaitlyn worked at Sonic and supported herself independently. Driven by her desire to make a difference in the lives of others, Kaitlyn made a bold and ambitious move to Washington, D.C., where she met with a Democratic senator to discuss changing how juvenile offenders are sentenced. Having spent half of her life incarcerated, Kaitlyn's everyday experiences were like embarking on a new adventure. With a release date that coincided with Thanksgiving, Kaitlyn's spirit soared as she envisioned spending the holiday with her brother Curtis. In an interview while in prison, Kaitlyn expressed her remorse for the taking of Nicole's life and her deep regret for her actions. However, she confessed that she found solace in the solitude and introspection of prison life. When Nicole's daughters, Jessica and Inez, learned of Curtis and Kaitlyn's impending release from prison in 2015, they expressed their pain to Florida Today. However, they also revealed their capacity for forgiveness. According to that article, Curtis and Kaitlyn had never apologized to Jessica or Inez and appeared to have no remorse for their actions. After witnessing the tragic story of Curtis and Kaitlyn Jones, two siblings who made a haunting pact at such a young age, we moved to the case of Jordan Roach.
Stand trial as an adult. On Thursday, Roche pleaded guilty to killing Cargill and was sentenced to 10 years in prison.
In 2017, Kaitlyn Cargill, a 14-year-old from Arlington, Texas, decided to walk with her dog. Kaitlyn left the apartment complex where she resided. Her family expected her to return home soon. However, their hopes began to fade as the hours turned into days.
14-year-old Kaitlyn Cargill, who disappeared in June only to be discovered dead in a landfill, may have had a deal to manufacture and sell a drug. An arrest warrant affidavit for Jordan Roach.
On the second day after Kaitlyn's disappearance, her body was found in an Arlington landfill. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community, and the search for justice began. It wasn't until August 2017 that the police finally revealed Kaitlyn's cause of death. Tragically, it was determined that she had been the victim of homicidal violence. This news only intensified the search for answers. In September 2017, police made a shocking announcement. They had arrested 16-year-old Jordan Roach, an acquaintance of Kaitlyn's. Jordan was charged with murder and transported to the Tarrant County Juvenile Detention Facility in Fort Worth. According to Jordan's arrest records, the police believed Kaitlyn was killed because of a drug deal gone bad. They also alleged that the murder weapon used was a hammer.
Police say they found a claw hammer along with Cargill's blood inside of an apartment.
Kaitlyn's murder sparked outrage among the residents of Bedford, where the young girl once lived. They are not only angered by the brutality of the crime, but also by the way the police and the media treated Kaitlyn. One of the most concerning aspects of this case is that the Bedford police never issued an Amber Alert when Kaitlyn disappeared in June 2017. This failure to act concerned many community members, as they believed that the situation warranted an immediate response. However, the Bedford police stated that Kaitlyn's information was entered into a local and national database, but they had no information to indicate she had been abducted, and therefore could not issue an Amber Alert. Fast forward to April 2022, and there is finally some closure in the case.
Is committed to remembering her daughter with a memorial garden in Hearst and a motorcycle ride each June in Kaitlyn's honor.
I live because she can't, so we do.
Jordan Roach, the 17-year-old perpetrator, was sentenced to 10 years in prison after he pleaded guilty. Since Jordan had been behind bars since his arrest, it meant that he would receive credit for time served. Trisha West, Kaitlyn's mother, expressed her outrage and disbelief at her daughter's murder during Jordan's sentencing hearing. She firmly believed her daughter would have become a valuable member of society, but Jordan's actions robbed Kaitlyn of that opportunity.
The only thing I can say is that you somehow have to find peace.
Trisha addressed Jordan directly, telling him that he had stolen Kaitlyn's life and her dreams. She expressed her deep regret at not being able to witness her daughter's bright future unfold. Through tears, she made it clear that Jordan had not only taken Kaitlyn's life, but also robbed her of the chance to make a positive impact on the lives of others. Continuing the theme of parental anguish, Bo Cargill, Kaitlyn's father, wrote a powerful statement that was read aloud during the sentencing hearing. In his letter, Bo expressed the daily torment he endured, haunted by what his daughter had to go through in her final moments. He expressed hope that Jordan would be haunted by his actions every day of his prison sentence. Jordan Roach's brutal crime left a trail of devastation, but the next case reveals another chilling story. On August 11, 2022, a tragic incident occurred in Gwinnett County, Georgia, when 30-year-old Ashley Bocanegra was rushed to the hospital. According to her sister, when Ashley arrived, she was experiencing difficulty breathing and was airlifted to another facility for emergency surgery. Unfortunately, she didn't make it, succumbing to her injuries. An investigation ensued, and detectives discovered that Ashley had been the victim of a brutal assault that led to severe injuries. Her ribs were fractured and her liver was damaged, ultimately leading to her death. The detectives' investigation led them to an apartment complex in Beaufort, Georgia, where they apprehended two suspects. 27-year-old Antonetta Stevens from Beaufort and 17-year-old Janine Gonzalez from New York.
We just got another call about it. So I guess the girl went to the hospital and she died. She died? She's dead.
Antonetta told detectives that she was dating Janine's brother, only to discover that he and Ashley had been in a romantic relationship. And not only had her boyfriend been cheating on her, but he had a 7-year-old child with Ashley. According to Antonetta and Janine, an altercation began when Ashley arrived at the apartment complex looking for Janine's brother. However, when the detectives review Antonetta and Janine's cell phones, the images, videos, and text messages tell a different story. The evidence suggests that Ashley's killing was far more deliberate than the two initially claimed.
Yep, this is what we do. If I get mad and he knows I'm leaving, he feels sad. He says, I'll let you her up. That's what I'm doing. You up. All right. Tell me everything. Hey, you got it. Get off. No.
The text messages on Antonetta and Janine's phones shed light on their planning and orchestration of the crime. It became clear that they had lured Ashley to their apartment under the pretext of meeting Janine's brother. Once Ashley arrived, Antonetta and Janine confronted her and secretly recorded the entire incident.
No, you ain't got. You don't get to say so. My man, right? Won't be in front of my man, right? Right? You his manager? I'm getting you fired. That's bias. Okay, yep, that's a conflict of interest.
Captured by the girl's cell phone, the video begins with Janine being filmed as Antonetta advances towards Ashley. With brutal force, Antonetta grabs hold of Ashley's hair and forcibly pushes her down. As Ashley struggles to regain her bearings, Antonetta repeatedly punches her in the face, causing her to cry out in pain.
You're f***ing my while he's on the clock. My going there trying to ruin his family. He has a whole son. You're mad for him? Okay.
Janine is then seen joining in on the violence, delivering a series of kicks to Ashley's side. Throughout the ordeal, Janine can be heard taunting Ashley, threatening to kill her no fewer than 5 times.
Are you sure?
You know? Yeah.
So Antoinette just sent the message
I'm
first?
positive myself. I'm positive. But yeah, I don't know if there's any messages sent to that lady.
Janine Gonzalez and Antonetta Stevens were charged with robbery, battery, and felony murder. When the detectives confronted Janine, despite her being only 17 years old, she displayed a cold and callous demeanor. She laughed even though an innocent woman was dead and her nephew, only 7 years old, was left without a mother.
Janine Gonzalez started her court appearance in tears before a Gwinnett County police officer laid out the murder charge against her.
During one of Janine's pretrial hearings, she was visibly distressed as the judge laid the case against her. The evidence against her was overwhelming, and the prosecution was determined to prove that Janine was not only an accomplice but also a willing participant in the murder of Ashley. Janine's defense attorneys argued that she was a bystander, but the clear imagery on the video contradicted these claims. The footage clearly showed Janine actively participating in the assault, leaving no room for doubt as to her involvement.
Gonzalez's attorney argued that she was practically a bystander.
Given that, I think the case ought to be found over as involuntary manslaughter and not as felony murder.
Janine's defense team also argued that she should be tried for involuntary manslaughter rather than felony murder. However, the prosecution had strong evidence from Ashley's text messages that implicated Janine in the assault. In a message to her boyfriend, Janine's brother, Ashley wrote, "I was fine until your sister kicked me in the chest and back area." The message provided a crucial link between Janine and the injuries sustained by Ashley. Despite the efforts of Janine's attorneys, she was eventually convicted of voluntary manslaughter and robbery by force. Alongside Antonetta, Janine was sentenced to serve a 20-year sentence in Arundel State Prison. Janine Gonzalez's actions painted a disturbing picture of betrayal and violence, but the next case takes an unexpected turn.
Then Jennifer and her parents embarked on a whirlwind media tour, appearing on local and national news shows, hoping someone would be able to offer a solution. None have worked so far. That sound has been her constant companion since the first hic.
4 weeks ago tomorrow.
And the sound is the least of it.
I get really bad chest pain, abdominal pains, throat pains, back pains.
Jennifer Mee, also known as the Hiccup Girl, first gained attention in 2007 at 15. Her unique condition, a long-lasting cause of hiccups, made her an instant sensation. She appeared on several TV shows and became a household name, captivating audiences with her quirky personality and infectious laughter.
Lots of water.
Other suggestions have been impractical or illegal.
Somebody told me to smoke marijuana, take a hit of marijuana, that would help. Yeah.
But you're not going to go that route.
Oh, definitely not.
As Jennifer's fame faded, her life began to unravel. She met her boyfriend, Lamont Williams, and together they embarked on a dangerous path that led to murder and a lifelong sentence.
After her boyfriend, LaRon Rayford, caught the two in the act, but that didn't come out in court today.
Were you faithful to LaRon? Yes.
Jennifer and Lamont began searching for victims online, targeting vulnerable or unsuspecting individuals. They would befriend these individuals, gaining their trust, and then lure them to vacant homes under the pretense of a meeting or business opportunity. Once inside, Jennifer and Lamont would rob their victims at gunpoint.
Jennifer Mee appeared on closed-circuit TV for less than 30 seconds.
By probable cause, your bond is currently zero. Can you afford a lawyer to help you?
However, on October 8, 2010, their plans went tragically awry. Jennifer, Lamont, and their accomplice, LaRon Rayford, lured 22-year-old Shannon Griffin to a vacant house in Tampa, Florida. Once inside, the three teenagers robbed Shannon, and he was fatally shot 4 times with a .38 caliber handgun. Through meticulous detective work, police were able to uncover incriminating evidence, leading to the arrest of Jennifer, Lamont, and LaRon. All three confessed to their involvement in the crime and were charged with murder.
I heard two.
Did you see the actual shooting happen or no?
No, sir.
What happened after the gunshots? Tell me what happened.
I didn't stay on. I left.
During Jennifer's trial, the prosecution played a recording from a jailhouse phone call between Jennifer and her mother, where Jennifer admitted she did not physically kill anyone, but said she set up the situation. However, experts testified that Jennifer's DNA was discovered on the victim's shirt. Her attorneys sought to portray her as suffering from schizophrenia, arguing that her mental condition rendered her unable to stand trial. After a court-ordered evaluation, it was determined that Jennifer was competent to stand trial.
Now you can see that Mee broke down right as that verdict was read. She was obviously hoping that the jury would convict her on a lesser charge, perhaps accessory to murder or manslaughter. Now, though, she'll spend the rest of her life behind bars.
In 2013, 3 years after Shannon was killed, Jennifer was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Her accomplices were also convicted and received life sentences. The public was in disbelief that the internet sensation Hiccup Girl had been convicted of such a heinous crime. Many criticized the sentence, arguing that it differed from what would be imposed on a male offender facing similar circumstances.
I couldn't even tell you. I got cased up with the wrong crowd of people, really. Unfortunately, when I started experimenting with drugs, I just felt like I was invincible to everything.
Jennifer sought a new trial following the conviction. but her appeal was denied. The ruling solidified Jennifer's fate, leaving her to serve a life sentence in a correctional facility. This case serves as a reminder that even individuals who achieve fame and success through online platforms can face serious consequences for their actions. Brace yourself for the chilling story of Jordan Wade, a teen who shockingly took 4 lives in a brutal act of violence.
The crime last summer seemed almost unthinkable. 4 victims forced to the basement of a home on Hudson Street near Cleveland Avenue.
Wade's trial began in May of this year. It was May 20th that a jury found him guilty on all charges. Today, Wade was given 172.5 years in prison.
In 2015, Jordan Wade and Robert Lee Adams committed a horrific crime that resulted in the tragic deaths of 4 people. This heinous crime took place in South Linden, Columbus, Ohio, and left the community in shock. At just 16 years old, Jordan Wade and 27-year-old Robert Lee Adams carried out a robbery and execution-style murders that left the victims dead from multiple gunshot wounds,
where they were ordered to lie on the floor before being shot in the head. The victims were Michael Ballore, Angela Harrison, Daniel Sharp, and Taisha Nelson.
Among the victims were 41-year-old Michael Ballore, 26-year-old Daniel Craig Sharp, 35-year-old Angela Harrison, and 18-year-old Taisha Nelson. These individuals were senselessly gunned down by Jordan and Robert, leaving behind grieving families and friends. A 15-year-old girl who miraculously escaped with her life after being grazed in the head by a bullet was also present during the shooting.
Police say Wade and Robert Lee Adams were at the home of Michael Baller. They say Adams shot Baller and 4 other people in the basement.
Terrified that Jordan and Robert might finish her off, the teenage girl took drastic measures to save her own life. She pretended to be dead, lying motionless among the bodies. After the duo fled the scene, the teenager managed to stumble out of the basement where she had been shot, seeking assistance. Miraculously, the teenager survived and eventually recovered from the incident. Once in stable condition, she provided crucial information to the police, helping them locate Jordan and Robert, which led to their arrests.
The gunman, 28-year-old Robert Lee Adams, he's set to go to trial in January. He faces the death penalty if convicted.
During their trial, the prosecution alleged that Jordan and Robert had robbed the victims, ordered them down to the basement, and that Robert was the one who fired the weapon that killed them. Jordan's defense attorneys argued that he wasn't the one who fired the gun and suggested he only took part in the crime because he was trying to impress the older Robert Adams. However, the prosecution claimed that Jordan was an active gang member at the time of the quadruple homicide, with a long criminal history, even though he was a juvenile. Jordan had been found guilty of committing aggravated arson at only 12 years old. The prosecutor alleged that Jordan had never taken responsibility for the murders and had the audacity to claim it was a cover-up.
Wade's trial began in May of this year. It was May 20th that a jury found him guilty on all charges.
When the judge handed down the life sentences, Jordan reacted with shock and disbelief. He appeared stunned, unable to comprehend the magnitude of his actions and the life-altering consequences he faced. His defense attorneys argued that Jordan was young and impulsive and deserved a chance at rehabilitation. Still, the prosecution maintained that the gravity of the crimes warranted the harshest punishment possible.
Wade was not the gunman, but prosecutors say he helped Robert Lee Adams rob and trap the victims in the basement. Wade was a juvenile at the time.
In a letter read to the court, the surviving teenager shed light on Jordan's devastation and expressed her hatred for him. The letter painted a chilling picture of Jordan as a manipulative and ruthless individual. The teenager described how Jordan's actions had shattered her mind, heart, and soul, leaving her with a profound sense of loss and despair.
Her testimony will be key to the prosecution's case. Wade was 16 years old at the time of the crime and is the first of 2 suspects to stand trial.
At the end of the letter, the teenager conveyed a sense of satisfaction, stating that it felt good to know Jordan would spend the rest of his life behind bars, forced to reflect on the lives he destroyed. These teens believed they could outrun justice, but the reckoning was more shocking than anyone imagined. Their reactions were unforgettable, but the chilling stories behind them are even more haunting. Don't stop now. The next video on screen will leave you absolutely speechless.